7:37 on WMAL, where Washington comes to talk on our Newsmaker hotline. As I live and breathe, it's Tucker Carlson from the Daily Caller. Hello, Tucker. How are you?
Ladies and gentlemen, yes. Good morning. Hey, good Brian.
So, wow, you got the deep voice going.
We're gonna get into sequestration and the president's take on it. But just one little funny thing happened. You know, I guess it's Friday. I was watching the Twitter feed, and all of these jokes started coming across the line because the president apparently talked about a Jedi mind meld going on. Apparently, he does not understand that there is no such thing as a Jedi mind meld. It's a Jedi mind trick and a Vulcan mind meld. He apparently mixed up his Star Trek and his Star Wars analogies, offending nerds everywhere.
See, my theory is he did that on purpose. Of course he knows the difference. This is a guy who plays Dungeons and Dragons. He's just pretending that he's not a nerdy sci-fi guy.
Oh, so he's just trying to boost up his street cred.
Well, it's a theory. I have no evidence.
I came up with my own mixed metaphor. I said, damn it, Jim, do or do not. There is no try.
Well, that is a good mix. That's like Star Trek meets Star Wars.
Yeah, that was mine. That was my contribution.
Awesome.
All right, but sequestration, the larger picture, we haven't heard your take on it, so take away.
Well, I haven't formed a solid view of who won, but it strikes me that the president may have overreached. I mean, I was pretty struck by the press reaction to some of the White House administration statements last week. You know, given the fact that the media have pretty consistently carried water for and sucked up to and worshipped and sniffed the throne of Barack Obama, they were pretty tough on him this week.
I think so.
You saw the Education Secretary, Arnie Duncan, come out and make false claims about how teachers were already being laid off. That's untrue. That was fact-checked fairly quickly. Then you saw the president himself come out and make a bunch of claims that were untrue, including the claim that janitors in the Capitol were being laid off, and he got pushed back on that pretty hard. And then you saw White House spokesman Jay Carney dramatically undercount the number of illegal aliens who'd been released by the Obama administration, and he was corrected pretty quickly. It's possible that they just went too far and that they annoyed even their fans in the press with their totally hysterical predictions about the world falling apart. So when the president comes out and says, it's not, apocalyptic as some have claimed, well, of course, he's the one who's been claiming that for the past couple of weeks,
right?
That maybe he's lost a little sympathy in the press, or maybe I'm just hoping that's the case, but it could be true.
Tucker, you've got your lead article right now at dailycaller.com has to do with the brewing discussion going on within Republican ranks over same-sex marriage. And in general, we were reporting earlier last week about CPAC and how they're making news for all the wrong reasons about who's not coming to CPAC, including the group Go Proud. What do you think of this internal discussion and how it might get resolved within the party?
Gee, it's just, I really don't know how it'll be resolved. I'm not an expert on, intra-Republican fighting because I try to ignore it. But I will say, just stand back 3 feet and acknowledge that it's not the most pressing issue facing America. I think you could make a really strong conservative case for gay marriage. If you're for marriage, then, you could be for gay marriage and be consistently conservative, I think. And I also understand the case against it. It's never happened in human history. So, let's slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
But either way, it's so far from the top of the list, and it does show, in my opinion, a kind of deep frivolousness on the part of a lot of people, this obsession with gay marriage. I mean, again, whether you're for it or against it, is it really? And I was at a dinner party last night with some neighbors of mine who were gay, who basically made the same point. $16.5 trillion debt. World kind of falling apart, Europe collapsing. I mean, really, gay marriage? 19 stories a week on the front page of the New York Times about it? I don't know. It maybe gets some perspective. I'll tell you this, though. What I can promise you is that the Republicans will turn this into a PR debacle because that's what successful.
That's one thing is a safe bet in this town, yeah.
Yes.
Hey, Tucker, one of the great things I love about Daily Caller is that you guys sort of push the envelope sometimes on some in-your-face articles, and you've got one on Ashley Judd right now, who is floating the idea of running for Senate in Kentucky, and the headline is, Ashley Judd, potential U.S. Senate candidate, sure has done a lot of on-screen nudity, and you've basically a list of all the places where you can go to see Ashley Judd's boobs. Now, which I appreciate that, by the way.
It's really a reader's guide. I mean, yes. That's another one of the services we perform for our readers.
Right. Well, but I bet you're going to get pushback about this, and I hope you remind everybody how the left mocked Scott Brown for posing in Playgirl. They used that as some sort of example of why he's not a serious candidate. Are you ready for their heads to explode over this?
And that never bothered me, the criticism of Scott Brown. I mean, I was disappointed that, the first legitimate Senate candidate ever to pose fully nude was a man.
Yeah,
I was disappointed.
There's a bit of a letdown there. Well, thank God it wasn't Al Franken.
But look, I mean, I'm not saying, and we're not claiming on the Daily Caller that anybody who poses naked ought to be disqualified as a serious politician. I just think, you want to know as much as you can about your Senate candidate.
But is Ashley Judd, seriously, is she a serious candidate? Because, I mean, she made an appearance here over the weekend, I think, and it didn't go so well.
Well, I mean, she seems like a very, very unhappy person. Now, she has that in common with probably most politicians, so it's, nothing unique there. But she's made a bunch of comments, including, attacking the idea of having children, that are pretty, seem to me, they're out of the mainstream I live in anyway. But, I think Republicans in Kentucky are really hoping she's going to run. I think Mitch McConnell's threat is not in the general election in Kentucky.
Yeah.
It's in the primary. He's being challenged or possibly challenged by a pretty serious guy called Matt Bevin, who's a sincere conservative and a self-made guy, and could give him a real run. I don't think that they're worried about Ashley Judd, and in fact, the threat is that they might, shame her out of the race before she even runs.
Some people have written that Ashley Judd is Dario Franchitti's worst car wreck.
I don't get that reference.
Married.
Oh, that's right. The husband who's the racer. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. I don't know him by name. I'm all right, Tucker.
She does seem like a handful. I don't think you'd want to marry her.
Yeah. Well, we're heading out. We were. I don't know if you heard it. We were talking about how Keith Olbermann floated the idea of going back to ESPN. I know you own KeithOlbermann.com. Are you hoping that he has a resurgence so you can get some more payback on that investment?
No one is going to believe me, but I mean this with total sincerity. I actually feel sorry for Keith. I know him really well. I think he's a talented guy. I've never met a more tormented person. No matter how much you despise Keith Olbermann, he despises himself more.
Really?
So maybe that will make you feel a little better. Keith is just such a tragic.
Do you still own KeithOlbermann.com?
Oh, yeah, we still do own Keith. I mean, of course, none of this is to say my compassion will not get in the way of our enjoying the hell out of a Keith Olbermann resurgence and populating KeithOlbermann.com with all kinds of fun stuff. But I do, let the record reflect, sincerely feel sorry for someone who is that unhappy.
We'll let him know. Maybe you guys can have a beer summit or something while you're watching March Madness, cheering on your Trinity Bantams. Are they going to make the tournament?
Trinity only competes in squash, and unfortunately, Trinity had the longest unbroken record of victories in all college sports in history until we lost this year.
Well, of course, by March Madness, I meant the NCAA squash tournament, Tucker.
See, everyone mocks squash, but it's really one of the great games. I'm playing today. It's really one of the great games of all time.
All right, go Trinity Bantams, and Tucker, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Tucker.